There are a lot fewer two-parent families.
What's worth more, $1 today or $1 tomorrow?
Almost nobody gets out of love alive.
Prisoners' rights is out of sight, out of mind.
Is your brain on God?
You ain't ready to
There are discussions
how
as
they thought
black families have to have them.
What's worth more, $1 today or $1 tomorrow? What's worth more, $1
Welcome, folks, to your Reality Gurus, the show we take a commonsensical approach to issues through complex conversation. I'm your host, G. Cleve. Listen, before we get started, man, make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe, hit that notification button so we can get this good content coming out to you guys. We got a nice little show for you today. Let's introduce you to the people. DB, Andy, Kanye, and returning guest Tashi. How you folks doing this morning? Come on, pep up, we live. Y'all gonna have to speak up, we live. Come on, talk to me. How y'all feeling this morning? Alright, anyway, then we'll go on, we'll move on. DB, listen, DB, first off, 2 weeks it's been since you've been here, and we know you took your trip to the motherland. All I want to know is, are we all packing our bags and moving down there and starting businesses? Come on, talk to me, fella. You've been there 2 weeks, you should have plenty of information for us. Let's hear it.
I only went to a little part. Africa's a big spot. I only went to Cairo. I don't suggest moving to Cairo only because that motherfucker's packed. That shit already got mad people in it. I don't think they need that many people, but they might want the money.
All right.
I don't know if they need that many people.
Right. So as far as business, how did it look like as far as like business is concerned? How did it look like the people were getting along, moving? You know, the argument we've been hearing is that that's what we should do here in this country, pack our bags and split. So what do you see when you're over there? I haven't been in the motherland yet. I'm not sure about you guys. I know I ain't, but I haven't been there. Tell me, outside of what we've seen in the pictures, man. Talk to me. What's going on down there in Egypt?
Shit, that's a big question. I can say this because with the fact that they, had their uprising in 2011, that they were hit hard business wise. So they're just getting back on board, especially with the tourism part of it, where they only started popping like maybe the last 3 years. So the thing about it is that everything is still very cheap when you go there as far as the American dollar goes. Like I think a dollar here is like 17.8 pounds for them. So your dollar could go a lot there. So if somebody wanted to start a business, they could go far with the way it is now, the dollar. So if somebody wanted to do that, in Cairo especially, that's a good move to do right now.
Let me ask real quick, just I can keep you here too long, but there was a little clip that we saw in the chat, Breakfast Club interview with a gentleman talking about how there's no black business unless the business we're in, what we're producing is being made in Africa. Do you remember that little clip that we watched earlier?
That was Saha the Prince.
Okay, all right. So what do you feel about that? How do you think that that little thought of his, like, you've been down there, tell me what you saw, man.
I don't know if I want to miss the Saha the Prince because I think he's saying that technically, that's the technicality he's using as far as having. It's not 100% black owned here because you're still paying the white man somewhere, especially in taxes. But you're paying the taxes anywhere you go. I think with him it's a black face. So I think that's what he's saying. But again, I think as far as if you want to do business, that American dollar is the way to do it. Like it's really. That's why I say cost funding makes the most sense to me. Like if you're going to do anything in Africa, because I think the fact is that how much you can get from American dollar in some of those other countries makes it a little bit more viable, makes it more easy to actually create businesses out there, which I think makes more sense.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, I'm not sure if you're totally convinced. Tashi, go ahead. What happened, Miss?
First and foremost, I think that I don't know who I've heard the name Saha the Prince, but the biggest thing you have to, it's like eliminating the middleman idea, but at the same time, us as black people, we've been in positions where we haven't been able to be the source of anything or be the source of whatever product we're reselling to the next person. So if you eliminate those in betweens, then you make more off your money or make more off of your investment. Just like I'm gonna talk about hair because I like little hair.
All right.
Most of these women are selling hair. They're coming from China, which come from India, which came from a temple that people donated their hair to. So it's like the people at the temple are making money off of this hair that was free to them. The only expense that they have is administration or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it trickles down, you may be making $20 off of a bundle, but you just spent $30 for everybody else in between.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were in India or you had your own temple, you would be making, let's say, $40 off of a bundle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, in concept, if you eliminate the middleman by being the source of something, you would make more money. But at the same time, we've always been in a predicament where we're at a disadvantage and we are not the source.
Mm-hmm.
But that's part of what I mean by when I'm saying like use the American dollar, because mostly what I'm talking about is infrastructure. Africa already has abundant resources, but they don't have they don't use it pretty much. So basically, they have the oil, they have chocolate, they have gold, they have all of that, but they don't have the industry that actually uses those.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, if you use the money to create the infrastructure there, then you cut the middleman out. But you need it to come from somewhere. Which is what I'm saying. Like,
if you do you own the land to even drill?
That's another thing. That is nothing. Yeah, that's nothing. And that's why I say,
I as a black woman can't go to India and say I'm gonna open up a temple because nobody's coming to this black woman's temple.
Mm-hmm.
I still gotta buy it from an Indian man. I'm eliminating my cost there, but I cannot own there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you what.
I mean, Africa is different, but when you go in different industries, it depends on where you're sourcing from. You have those issues, especially cultural issues.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't go to Colombia because I don't speak Spanish. I'm gonna have to have a translator.
Mm-hmm.
They're not gonna deal with me because I'm not Spanish.
All right.
Period.
So, all right. So then your argument is with regard to going to Africa and starting a business is what is a language issue or being accepted? What part of it do you have the issue with?
With Africa.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an issue with it. I understand what Dan is saying. Like, the value of your dollar goes further. So when you make the dollar there, your earning is better.
Mm-hmm.
But my argument is that when you go into certain industries and you have to source from different places, you butt up on problems that are associated with culture and your ability to be the source. Because I'm not saying there's none, but there's no black woman like me born and raised in India owning land and with enough relationships to own a temple. Born and raised in Colombia and have enough relationships to run a coffee plant. Yeah, you could buy into it, but that costs money.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of a person who naturally or innately or born into something where they own it or they have, sharing something, and then they can, like I said, a temple. You get all these donated hairs and spending you earning all your money off of something that was free to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you what, man. I tell you, it seems like just listening that there's going to be challenges wherever we go, whether it's here, whether it's Africa, and you mentioned some other countries. So, I guess it's going to come down to what fits for you, what situation works best for you, and then move forward. So, DB, glad to see you back. Glad to see you got a nice little tan and everything. So let's move on real quick, lighten it up a little bit. I've been hearing that Ice Cube is planning on say it again. Oh yeah,
it's funny because you were like lighting it up. Sorry.
Yeah, we gonna lighten it up a bit. Another pun on his tan. I got you. But so Ice Cube apparently is talking about bringing out another Friday film, and it's supposed to feature Smokey. You remember that character for the original Friday. But in the light of all of that, we've been seeing some interviews with some of the characters from the original movie, talking about how they didn't receive much money. I think John Witherspoon said that nobody made more than $5,000 for that particular film, which was interesting. Seeing how Friday has turned out to be a hood classic, I don't know how much money is generated worldwide, but it's up there. You got some people wondering. So what did Ice Cube do to compensate the actors who contributed to this classic hood film? And in my opinion, I'm not sure he should have done anything else. But anybody else here, Kanye specifically, I think you have kind of a question, kind of a criticism towards Ice Cube for not coming back and giving them guys. I don't know exactly what it is you think he should have given them, but I'll let you go ahead and speak on that. How you think about it?
Yeah, I won't say it's a criticism necessarily on him, but I'll just say that it's almost like a divide in between, the land that we're in and how we do things. You know what I'm saying? As far as how contracts are dealt with, how capitalism is running this country, as opposed to who we are as a people and just being fair with our own. Just to say, hey, you know what? I didn't think this movie was gonna make this type of money. Yeah, you did sign a contract saying that, I was only gonna give you 5,000, but my brother, this shit made 75 mil. I gotta give you more. I gotta take care of you. And my stance is, had he done that, you would have seen these other actors that weren't in part 2, 3, and 4 in those other versions of it. You dig what I'm saying? But if they like, hold up, I only got 5,000 off of it, even though that's what I agreed to. Hold up, man. Fuck that. You ain't gonna give me more than that. Nah. I can't fuck with part 2. Fuck that shit, man. You fucked me over.
How you feel about? Okay, all right. Fuck. He basically fucked them over. He says. So, Andy, what you think about this situation? You got any comments on that?
I mean, I'm probably gonna take the side of Ice Cube a little bit more, and because of my friends, I have a lot of people that's involved in making film. A lot of the times, like when you're an up and coming director or like creator of a film, there's gonna be times where you're kind of gonna have to stiff. Oh, the makeup artist. Oh, you're gonna have to stiff. It's kind of part of the game. There's gonna be certain instances where when you're trying to do art that you're not gonna be compensated. But although I do understand the fact that, all this money was accumulated from, the popularity of the film, you should kind of give or let people rock. Like, you know what? Yeah, Friday made like 75 mil. Let me kind of, that I agree with. But a lot of the times, in order for you to make a film, you're gonna have to cut corners. And in that case, back in the day where nobody didn't have a name, whether it be Chris Tucker, I mean, John Witherspoon was known in the comedy scene, but all these other actors, it's like fuck it, like.
So let me ask this then. Yeah, let me come back to you real quick. What about the investment, the upfront investment? We're talking about $5,000 that these individuals were making, these actors. If let's say conservatively 10 actors, $5,000 a piece. Now we're talking about $50,000. Now, if Ice Cube was the one that's bankrolling that, I didn't see anybody else raising their hand saying, let me go ahead and put a little bit into this pot to get this movie moving. So if he spent the $50,000 of his own money or investments that he got from, elsewhere, why would he owe the actors anything at the end of this thing? He's the one who came up with the investment. Why would he owe the actors anything? Regardless of how much money this film made.
That's a good point. That's definitely a good point. But I think if I'm Cube, I gotta be strategic that they know how much I've made from this money. Yeah, I can say fuck them and just get somebody else, but how does it hurt the quality of the movie? How does it hurt, how many people are gonna show up for the next movie? So I gotta think in the aspect of how can I make more money for part 2 and how can I still keep my guys that people love on board? I don't want my greed to run away my guys, If that makes any sense.
Well, no, I mean, I get it. It's just the idea that actors, because let's do it this way. Let's flip it. What if Friday was a fucking bust? So that's $50,000 that Ice Cube put into this movie and he made nothing from it. How many of those individuals have been like, listen, let's go for round 2 and here's a couple $1,000. And that's the part of it that I want to talk about. I want to focus on the fact that
I think that's a matter of greed. Like Chris Tucker was nobody back then. And now he's like, well, I deserve this and that. Not thinking about the fact that, first of all, he fell off in between. But
what?
Did he fall off though? Did he fall off or he did kind of just take a break?
He fell off like Rush Hour 3.
That's actually a point I was wanting to come up, because the fact is Chris Tucker wasn't hurting after that movie. Like he went to blow up after that movie, so he made a good decision for himself too. And on top of that, pretty much every other person that was in the original cast was there besides Chris Tucker. So it's like, and I don't know. I guess the question is, how much did they make the second movie? Because a lot of them returned.
Well, that's the thing. For me, that's where you get your payday on the next contract. Let's just take, for instance, NFL. For instance, a lot of these rookies play their rookie contracts just like shit money, and they outperform it, right? And then their next contract, they get paid. But there's a lot of these guys that wait to try.
OBJ?
Odell Beckham? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm talking about the money. I ain't talking about all that. I don't know nothing about it. I'm just saying, I don't know how much he made the first time, but I know the contract he had was astronomical most recently.
Well, with him, he was a bit different because they made the decision to change to adjust his contract without any issues. You got a Le'Veon Bell who he's outperformed his contract, but because he's in a running back position, I guess they feel like he's not going to be worth the money that going too far.
We're segueing into sports.
Only because you made the reference about OBJ, Odell Beckham. Yeah, but so I mean, when you come back, for your next film, that's where you're supposed to make your payday. So I don't think Cube owes.
Like when you dealing with stuff like that, especially like people. How long ago was that? Y'all said 93.
95. I think that film was 95, right?
95.
Now, from then to now, y'all already know what the situation is. Why are you making comments about how much you made then when you know you have a lawyer to negotiate it now? It's like sometimes it's like we forget, we as in just people in general forget that there's like, you have no tact. What are we talking about money for when you got to negotiate anyway? Just do your thing in the background.
Or maybe it's because for some of those, there's a couple of actors that didn't do as well as like a Chris Tucker, maybe Lisa Ray, Regina King.
I feel like.
What about AJ Johnson? Okay.
Take that L.
Well, AJ.
Take that L. One L.
You take the L and then you negotiate. Period. Be quiet.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. Especially Mr. Witt. I feel like sometimes people make comments, especially now in the advent of social media. Everything is a comment or a response for attention. Just get your money. Just like I signed a contract the other day, I told homegirl, you got to add that a few dollars onto that hourly rate, baby. Period.
From what I saw from the two different interviews, the one with AJ Johnson, brother that played Ezell, and Pops didn't really come off as being resentful or whatnot. He came off as if like he kind of understood that's what it was. That was the first movie. First movies, dudes really don't get that much. But Ezell, he kind of came off a little bit salty, and I think that has a lot to do with the lack of success from his career after,
Exactly.
So.
And then not getting the opportunity to be in subsequent movies. Apparently, which I didn't know, they used Fredro Starr as his character in the second film.
That was Sticky Fingers.
It was a Sticky? Okay, all right, Sticky Fingers as okay. So that would be a reason to feel slighted, especially since the Ezell character was as popular as he was. A lot of sayings and stuff that he said, that people still say today.
What about
and on top of that, he said that he had discussed with Q being in part 2. They had a script and everything, and he said when he walked up on the set, the security stopped him. They didn't let him come on the set at all. So that'll kind of make it a little bit salty.
No.
That'll make it
That's
fucked up, Q.
How you gonna stop Ezell? How you gonna stop Ezell from coming in on the set? That's crazy. But anyway, I figured we'd talk about that real quick. I thought it was interesting since Friday. They're talking about coming up with another movie, but moving right along. What else we saw last week with the what was that? Roland Martin had an interview with Mr. Controversy analyst Jason Whitlock regarding black people voting and a couple of other things. Did you guys actually see any of that interview? Have you guys seen any of the interview?
I saw that part of it.
You saw that part of it? Or that part of it? Tashi? Yeah. Okay.
This one's on the side of not voting.
Whitlock. but for reason, he had reasons for it, you know. And I wanted to kind of get into some of the reasons behind him just, you know, feeling like black people shouldn't just be, you know, voting. But yeah, DB, what did you take on that situation?
On this voting period?
Well, the Whitlock. Well,
huh?
Say again.
What was your question? I'm sorry.
With regard to the interview with Roland Martin and Whitlock, the fact that Roland Martin is on the side of voting and Whitlock is on the side of not voting unless you have, well, actually, he didn't even say there was a reason that he would vote, right? Okay, so
I actually have no problem either side. Like, if you vote, you vote. If you don't vote, you don't vote. I don't have a problem with it. It's what you do outside of it. As far as the interview, the only problem I have with Whitlock was that his solution was play it out, which I don't think is the only thing you're supposed to do. You got to have a clear plan. So as far as his part of the argument, he lost me a little bit with that. But I don't have anybody against conscientious non-voters, like people who don't vote for a reason. I understand it, but it's what you're doing outside of it. Then what are you doing to uplift yourself, your family, your community, whatever it is, compared to that? Even if you do vote, is what are you doing outside of that? Because the vote itself is not going to bring you up. It's what you do outside of all of that. So that's why I'm at with it.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Tashi? How you feel about the idea of voting versus, you know, not voting?
I don't vote. I don't vote in the presidential because I'm in New York, and there's nothing for me to vote about. We Democratic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where I feel like as a person I'm very informed about voting and the electoral college and all those things. I feel like you have to be purposeful in your votes, especially in certain states. Like I said, New York, we're always going to swing Democratic. Fine. When you're dealing with your municipalities and those types of things, your borough president, that's where it becomes more, pivotal for you to vote, because your vote actually, I don't want to say it actually matters, because that's like an inappropriate statement to make. But what it does is that your vote has more of an effect on the results than anything when it comes down to those lower level or, lower level voting. Governor, borough or county president. If you're in a county like, Westchester, you have your towns and stuff. And like Dane said, some people just say they vote and pray it away. Like, really? Like, you really don't have a reason. You really don't have a reason.
Well,
really.
I mean, yeah.
It's like that doesn't even correlate to not voting. What does that have to do with anything?
All right, so you focus more on the local elections, which is I think is important as well.
And same answer. Yeah, I agree with that as well.
Focus, but okay, so Anye, how you feel about it, brother? The idea of voting versus not voting, and then also let me toss because Tashi mentioned about the whole prayer and stuff. Now, where does prayer come into play with regard to the decision to vote and not vote? Like, how do you feel about that? I thought that was an interesting point Will brought up.
That's not too much of what I got from what he said. All I heard was family and God, family and God, family and God, and I ain't got no problem with that. I ain't no Christian dude or whatnot. But speaking specifically on the problems of dealing with the black community, his thing was like, we just too ultra pushed on the whole voting for the presidents or whatnot, but we need to focus on the core of it all, which is the family, and getting the family right, and to any man's concept of God or whatnot. I didn't really hear too much about the prayer part of it all, but me personally, I'm big on voting on the local level, not necessarily on the presidential level, because groups of people that I've seen, they putting their money together, they focus on group economics and doing for self and not waiting for them kickdowns from the president. When you waiting on that, you'll really never see that. You'll never see that. You know what I'm saying? So.
AD, so you, brother, talk to me, man. How you feeling about this?
In regards, so like, I understand the sanctity or the respect that voting has. I feel like I agree with voting on the. I feel like everybody agrees on voting on the local level, but I'm gonna probably kind of piggyback on Dane's point to the sense of like that you kind of have to be aware, or you kind of need to have an understanding of politics in order for you to like really vote. And I feel like a lot of people, and this is like my critique with it is, a lot of people just blindly go into the ballots without really having an understanding on any kind of laws, statutes, and all this other shit. And also, I feel like the community, the black community, I feel like we're gonna need something else besides voting. Like we're gonna need like we gotta fix the home. We gotta find ways to really have like practice group economics or like really have a say on what's going on in terms of politics. I feel like a lot of the times people just say, yeah, our ancestors or whatever died for voting. But I mean, like, they died for us having a true voice, not necessarily just aligning ourselves with a fucking political party. Like, I feel like in a lot of ways, voting is invalidated because of the intricacies that we don't pay attention to, whether it be like, okay, you got to put money up, or you got to have lobbyists, you got to have ideology, you got to have certain things in order for us to really participate in the system. I'm not for that blind voting bullshit. That's basically it. But I understand if you can vote for the city council and then all this other shit, I get that. But when it comes to like presidential and shit, it's like there's too much corruption going on. So I feel like
in regard to the local, I think it's more direct impact on our everyday life. So it's important to vote in the local election. Like Andy said, it's less complexities in regard to the local election and that stuff. We know, I don't know, most of us are New Yorkers or from urban areas, and we know that the older people go out and vote more than the younger people. So that impacts the way that voting or the decisions are made around us, because when you go to the polls, older people are signing you in. Older people are there in droves. But in regard to the presidency, as we saw in the last few years and of our adulthood, the Electoral College has become something of a mystery. I was in undergrad for legal studies, and I still don't understand the Electoral College. There's a complexity that was created when time was, there was 1 million people in the United States. Now there's 300 million in the United States, and the Electoral College still exists. And they hold on to the Electoral College concept because it's historically, what was set up, because the founding fathers was so great at thinking about 2018 and whatever. But at the end of the day, it's not appropriate in this time. It isn't, because we, especially people that don't understand the Electoral College and how the formula represents the representation of this and that. The popular vote means you're popular, majority wins, but the Electoral College doesn't say so. So it's like the concept of government. I don't think it's racially. I don't want to say it's racially driven, but there's a racial dissonance there where it impacts us because we don't understand it. Nobody really understands it, but what we do understand is that the people that have benefit the most are not us.
Well,
Obama's an anomaly.
It's Barack Obama's as far as an anomaly, as far as what?
In regard to being elected president twice, because the shift happened where young people at the time were like, yo, my vote matters if I go in, especially in those important states. Like I said, I don't vote in New York in regard to those higher elections, but in those states where you can change the way the Electoral College impacts the presidency, those students that knew that, or people that knew that, or those states that really refocused and said, yo, if I really vote for this man, he has a chance. That's what happened. And then in the converse, they did the same thing for Trump, and here we have Trump. So they came out in droves in those states where those electoral votes were either split or majority won. So it becomes complex, and if you don't, like Andy said, if you don't have an understanding of it, you're gonna fail.
Let me ask.
Hey, yo,
Let me
Jay,
ask about.
Jay, let me.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna throw this in real quick. Just saying how things are so complex. How you know what I'm saying it's really hard for us to understand. I think what is very simple for us to understand is that we're in a fucking capitalist society, and everybody understands the dollar and how the dollar moves.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to start to come to some of these candidates as a group with money to be like, hey, you need us to do this, but we need you to do this for this type of money right here. If we trying to get this land over here to start little Africa or little whatever, then we talking. You dig what I'm saying? That's how you use politicians in this capitalistic society, in my mind.
It's difficult for me, when I think about the argument between like the Tashi when she says that electoral college and that whole setup is from an old way of thinking. This is the conversations that I have with people that focus on, exclusively history. And history is going to teach us how we're supposed to move for the future. But I listened to, I don't know if you guys are familiar with some of these YouTubers, Yvette Carnell or Antonio Moore. I don't know if you're familiar with them. You are. Very, very, very studied when it comes to the history, Black history in this country. The problem is when I sit back and listen to some of their videos, I get very depressed. I get very, very depressed because the narrative is just so just doom and gloom. Everything is about, we got nothing. We're not gonna have anything. Redlining, economics, and a lot of that stuff is true. Problem is, I get to the point where I'm depressed because at the end of this video, I don't really have any solutions. They're not really pointing me in a direction to go ahead and to make things work. And I don't know, man. I'm just kind of wondering, man, if focusing exclusively on the history and not, balancing it out with making sure that we tell people about entrepreneurship, I'm wondering, how do y'all feel about it? Is that a recipe for disaster or what? I mean, how do you feel about it? Is it about politics or is it about entrepreneurship? Is it about going to try to get something from this politician over there, or trying to grab who you can, get some funds together and create something? Which one is it about? I have this conversation with people regularly, and I'm still at the point where I don't understand. Like, I'm focused on entrepreneurship, and people keep telling me about history, and I want to know how we're going to bridge this gap. We haven't bridged it yet. Anybody have, anything to say about that?
I think the majority is economics, but I think you can't take away from the politics, mainly because some of the way you get your money is tied up with the politics. Like, it depends on your programs. It depends on your resources. I think if I was to take Anya's argument, I think that works on a local level. It might not work with the overall, but if you have your community, that community is touched by a politician, you get your money together, you get your resources together, whatever, you go to that politician, that might work.
Mm-hmm.
On the small scale, that might work. So I think politics are mixed up. I think that's why everybody agrees on the local aspect of it. When you get to the higher ups, that's when you lose a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's both of it. But I think economics come first before everything, because you got to feed your family. You got to have something in order to make them realize your worth, which is what you bring to your community in the first place, which is money, because you need money in this society. So economics come first, but I don't say take away from the politics, because you need some policies in place to keep you safeguarded.
Let me ask this last question here, and I wish I had someone who was really deep into their history and the politics side of things to kind of answer this question. Now, we know that in this country, Native Americans had a real hard time years ago, right? And we do know that they have, they've received their reparations or whatever. They have their territories, they have their lands, they have their what you call those what do you call those, man? Like, they get they get funding, they get, like, if you got like a certain amount of blood, your lineage, you get funds, and they go to school, and right, and that was here in this country. Now, the Holocaust situation. Apparently, Obama had cut some money for the Jews for the Holocaust situation. That wasn't even here in this country. Wasn't even here. So now you got Native Americans were here. They got what they needed, and you have the Jews with the Holocaust not in this country, and they got a little something. Now you come to descendants of slaves, right? And apparently we've got nothing. All right. And we're talking about a lot of fucking years here. We're talking about a lot of years that people who focused on history and politics and reparation, a lot of years this conversation's been going on and nothing. So my question is, at what point do we start considering this shit to be insanity? To just focus on the history, just focus on the politics, and never really tell these people or tell people that in the meantime, waiting for this shit to happen, go out there and try to do something as well. Does that mean get a job, whether it means start your own business or whatever it is, but start creating something of your own and stop waiting for, I don't know, man. Is anybody agreeing with this? Am I crazy? Am I losing my mind right here?
I agree with you. Like I've been called everything from a pragmatist to a moderate because I don't believe in just any of one side. I think there might be more things that tip the scale, but I think that one mind frame is that one side of mind frame, is dangerous. You know what I mean? Like I like history, I believe in history, and I do use history, but that's not where I'm focused at. Because you got things now that you got to do.
And I want to be careful. I don't want to say anything that kind of suggests that history is irrelevant, because that's not what I'm saying. The problem is if we're working here, we're working towards a goal, and it's been so many years and shit's not happening. When are you going to change the strategy, adjust it, amend it a bit? You don't have to completely abandon it, but when are you going to adjust this strategy? Because we ain't 2053 net median income is at 0 for the black family, but we still talk 2053 is 2018 now. So in 2053, you've predicted that we will be at 0 if we don't do what? If we don't do what? If we don't do what? No one's telling what the fuck we're supposed to do. What are we supposed to do to prevent that from happening? Okay. Let's go ahead and move on, folks, because I'm getting a little heated. We're moving to. I'm sorry. Did you have something you wanted to say about that?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tashi.
There's a graphic. I don't know if y'all seen it because social media is the new news.
Mm-hmm.
That shows when slaves came over, to the point in which you had the Emancipation Proclamation, to the point in which you had the Civil Rights Movement, and the actual transition from, let's say, 1954 to now. The years of slavery and segregation and all those years are, let's say, 300, 400 years.
Mm-hmm.
They're basically saying in that graphic that it's going to take us that much time to get to the next transition or the next place. I truly believe that for us to get to where we want to be and not be in 2053 with zero income, is that we got to realize what life is about. We have to be radical about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like me, I only work with minority businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Because although, there's other things in the background, I try to keep my money in my community. Mm-hmm. Whether it be black business, women-run businesses, small business, I try to keep it that way in that hierarchy so that I can see my money be reciprocated back to me.
Mm-hmm.
If we keep going to Walmart, going to these, different places that are owned by these conglomerates, those
mm-hmm.
conglomerates are only going to get bigger.
Mm-hmm.
There's a movement going on now, especially like I always talk about the advent of social media. But it is important to know that social media has equalized a lot of things for us.
Agreed.
Eventually, they're going to realize that social media is something that we're going to have to pay for, because we make it. There's people on social media making millions, black women making millions of dollars now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great. And all right, I'm going to give an example. Supercent. She runs $1 million business. She has 30 employees, all black. Some of them are felons. Some of them are friends, whatever. But she's giving her money right back to the black community. If you don't do radical shit like that, where you support your own so they can support their own, so you can support your own and bring your money right back, nothing's gonna change.
Okay, so
nothing is gonna change.
Before I move on,
you work for the government and then spend your money at Walmart, you taking the government funds and putting it right back into the same thing that you worried about. Take your government funds or whoever you work for and then give it into the black community, because the black community is only holding on to their money. I think the lady said, and I don't remember her name, she's a banker, for 6 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous.
So
but you want 300 years worth of stuff to be eliminated or alleviated? 6 minutes? Really?
So what do you say about, real quick, this is my last question for this thing. What do you say about that? No, for this topic, specifically for you, what would be your counter argument to someone who says there's no black business without black politics? Like, what do you say to that?
It's very true. It's very true.
I
can only talk about New York.
Mm-hmm.
When my organization was faceless, I didn't put my face on my nonprofit page. I witnessed things and read things in the commentary among a lot of small businesses around me run by Hispanic people, Latino people,
mm-hmm.
that showed their sentiments about black people in the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, if you have a Spanish borough president with a Spanish deputy borough president and a Spanish 70% in Spanish and 30% is black, and black people have their little businesses, and we're segregating ourselves to the North Bronx,
mm-hmm.
and segregating ourselves to the South Bronx, and these other communities dominate these other places and they support each other. When I tell you they support each other, Mercedes Benz and all type of stuff, but yet they in the HRA, they know what to do, because they learn from each other and they support each other, and they get that from the trickle down effect. Homeboys at the top. So at the end of the day, if we don't, and it's hard for us to even get into politics in the Bronx, like I said, it's hard, because there's a councilman here. I would love to be in politics, but this man about 80 years old and will not leave his spot.
Yeah, that's what they do, man.
Term limits is done. He ain't care.
Well, I tell you,
pass the baton to the next person. So even if we work on economics, we gotta get our S together so that the next person, if you don't move, it has to be gradual, but it also has to be radical. You can't let them know everything you know. Because sometimes I have people come to my business and say, we should work together. But I already know you don't like black girls, honey. I already know you think that the Spanish people run here. And it's not about race. It's about the fact that your sentiment is biased. And I don't mess with that.
Tashi, listen, make sure y'all pay attention to her too, to the Bronx. She's doing some real big things in the BX, man. Y'all gotta really pay attention. Okay, well, let's move on so we can calm you down just a little bit. No, that's fine. Let's go ahead and talk about what else was big last week. Kanye and Trump. Kanye West went to the Oval Office, had a sit down. Jim Brown was over there looking really, really lost. I don't even know if he said anything. But tell me what y'all feel about this Kanye West Trump situation, man. Because me, in my opinion, I just think.
Bozo ass nigga. He's a bozo, man.
Tell me how you really feel.
You can get your tax break, Kanye. I'm cool with. I can understand the free thinking. I can understand all that, sir. But I don't like this sycophantic shit. Alright, you could be like, yo, I fuck with Trump, be cool, dap him up. That's it. That whole yo, you like Christ in his embodied form. I don't like that bullshit. All right, chill, nigga.
Well, I'm not even sure if that was Kanye. I think it was Superman. But DB, talk to you, man. What you feel about this Trump Kanye / Superman situation, man, up in the Oval Office? Talk to me, man.
Here he goes.
I don't think anybody debates that Kanye is a little crazy. You know what I mean? I think you gotta be a little crazy to be doing what the fuck he does. I don't know, if you break down like some of the things that he say, it makes sense. It's just ramble. It's just like mad fucking like small things. And I'm not talking about like the shit like Andy's talking about, the dapping up and the love and I kind of have a little problem with the free thought, at least in the form that Kanye's doing it. But some of the topics that he talk about, like with Larry Hoover and building your community, it's small things like that that do make sense. But you have to kind of bypass all that other shit to get there, which is a problem for a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Right.
But no, I don't know what to tell y'all. Y'all got to filter Kanye. That's the only way to really take it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That nigga's too scatterbrained. He's always been mad scatterbrained, and like a lot of his points get drowned out by all the idiocy. Like, yo, what are you talking about? This nigga will talk about space 1 minute, and then the next minute talk about Larry.
So then,
that's the people y'all pay attention to.
But wait, wasn't that what Jim Brown was there for? Jim Brown, I thought he was supposed to be here to keep order, to make sure when Kanye left Earth on the mothership that he was going to bring his ass back down. He didn't say anything. Where did Jim Brown? Tell me what Jim Brown contributed.
Be there too. See, I was supposed to be next to him.
Tell me what he contributed. Tell me what Jim Brown contributed to that conversation. As a matter of fact, when he did speak, you could barely hear him.
I don't know who this is.
Jim Brown?
Jim Brown he's a football player back in the day who used to do a lot of civil rights stuff back in the day. He was the old black man that was sitting next to Kanye.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it because it's clown.
Nah, you had to see. You know what? You had to watch it, man, because if you didn't watch it, you wouldn't.
Leave my boy Ye alone, man. Leave him alone.
Tashi, listen.
Look, man. He's a representation of the times that we in. We in a crazy time frame where shit is all over the place, and he definitely embodies that. He embodies that. I hear a lot of.
First of all, Kanye has always, like Andy said, he's always been scatterbrained, but that's because he was creative, and I understand that, right? Then his mama died, and he went berserk.
The mama died, dude.
Yeah.
That might have a lot to do with it.
It made no sense when she was alive. Like, I hate when people use that shit.
Kanye, he was wild when she was alive.
Making a lot of sense because he made the first albums, right? Let's say that, right? Yeah. When he lost his mother, he felt like he contributed to his mother's death. He went berserk. So anyway, he has attested to the fact that he has mental health issues and he's addicted to opioids.
Is he addicted to
opioids? Things going on with Kanye West, and then the fact that he's in celebrity, he got these kids, he got that complex family that he just married into, and then y'all put this man on the plateau. I don't know, and then Trump.
I hear you. But that's like the general narrative that like the black community is running with. They ain't hooking me with that, man. Look. All I'm concerned with is what a man can produce. And if you go back to the things that he was pointing out in that Oval Office, he was spitting some bars in there.
Hold on, Tashi. Yeah, we're gonna get into this. We
go in the emotional aspect of it. That's Trump. How could you meet with Trump? Kanye, you're crazy. You've been crazy since your mom died. You with that crazy family. How come you got that hat on? Hold on. That we overlook the bars that he was spitting in there.
Who is he spitting the bars to, bro?
Okay, hold on. Let's go to what he said. He talked about specifically education reform, prison reform. You know what I'm saying? He talked about, creating jobs. He talked about stopping frisk. He talked about keeping jobs in America. He talked about making factories in the hood. And some of this may seem far-fetched, but these are a lot of solutions to problems that we have. But these points that he pointed out got completely overshadowed by the circus.
I gotta be honest, Tashi. If listening to Ye, if we back up just a little bit to the last bit of the conversation, he's sitting there in the Oval Office with, the most powerful man in the world, right? Most powerful politician in the world, correct? And he's bringing up issues. I mean, serious issues. In between time, he's leaving Earth. He's coming back, and then he's dropping a few more jewels. So, I mean, what's the problem with that? Tell me, really, what's the problem with that, Tashi?
Okay, here's the problem.
They don't like him.
No. I love me some Yeezy. I some sneakers. Okay?
You love his apparel.
Here's my thing, right? When it comes down to it, Ye, I had an interview with Trump Organization. I don't know if they ever tell you this, but Ye is talking to a man that does not care. Although he's there and he's bringing this to the light, Kanye was listening, Greg was listening, Andy was listening. Da 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 da. Y'all listening, but the people that really need to listen are just seeing the circus. So that's why it's like it's a catch-22.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
as much as he's pointing out things and oh yeah, he made good points. Was the point taken? I tell my son, 8 years old, take heed. Were they taking heed to what he's saying? No, they just see the show. Period.
See, okay, as you said, Kanye is an artist, he's an entertainer, he is scatterbrained. Is that more of an indictment on him or the consciousness of the people not being able to see through the bullshit to catch the message?
That's a good one.
How to formulate your thoughts.
But I just said that.
But wait, here's the thing.
He may be talking to Trump, but first of all, Trump is a clown. That's my opinion. But he's talking to Trump, but what exactly is Trump gonna say? Well, let me write down these notes. Let me take notes, or whoever's taking notes for Trump, because of course there's note takers, and say these things are important, or he's just entertained. That's my point.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Don't you think that it will put it like this? Put it like this. Kanye is sitting in the Oval Office talking to the President of the United States. Now, if you believe that politics is the way for us to get the way of life we need, why wouldn't sitting in front of that man be the person you want to sit in front of? Why would you waste your time sitting in front of anybody else? And here's the thing, Kanye may not be as well versed in history and politics, not articulate enough to speak like a politician, but then that tells me that the people out there who do speak that way, who are articulate, should be embarrassed with themselves because Kanye got the balls to sit in front of the president, but you don't.
This is kind of how I separate the two. Like if I think about like when Kanye's wife was in there, Kim Kardashian, and she went in and she got that chick pardoned. Well, I forget what her name was, right?
Oh yeah, we gotta look that up. Yeah.
With a clear goal, she got that goal accomplished. I think the problem with somebody like Kanye going in there, coming in scattered, coming in, which in my opinion was a photo op for Trump to say, oh, I got black people rocking with me, is that when you don't have a clear guidance, when you don't have a clear plan, and you go in there just like that, it becomes nothing but a photo op because you don't come in there and get anything done.
But
that's the main problem.
Well, okay, but Ye got jewels from it. Ye got jewels from it because his consciousness is where it needs to be for him to be able to absorb that. So what I'm saying is, if Kanye, let's see, if he's not the best candidate, that's fine. Then let somebody else who feels they can do better than him get the fuck up and go in the Oval Office and do. But see, here's the problem. Let's not make it about Kanye.
Are they gonna let the person in? If you notice, and this is what they say about Trump all the time, he's a narcissist. He needs a person to come in there and validate his existence by being comparable to him.
Hold on, Tashi.
I can't go in and say Ms. Johnson needs to be pardoned and he take heed to what I'm saying because I'm not Kim Kardashian.
Before you say that point, Ye, before you say that,
let me throw this in there. Like I said, T.I. was supposed to be in there, but at the last minute, he declined not to go. But T.I. was in all of the photo ops with Obama, and what came out of that? Nothing. So when it's time to show up once again, are we into those emotions that, oh, he's a Republican, I don't fuck with him, I don't like what he represents, I don't like what he said? Like G said, he's still possibly the most powerful man in the world. When it's your time to represent, do you really stand on that stage and represent, or do you sit back and just criticize those who did step on that stage?
And that's the point. And so now it's interesting. I didn't know about T.I.'s presence and then him backing out the last minute. So did Jim Brown become the replacement? Is that what it was, or Jim Brown was always supposed to be there? Because in my mind, I was thinking.
I always think that when Trump invites black people, it's always a group of black people to say, I got a bunch of black people that rock with me, because that's all I've seen. Even though it might be the same with white people. I'm not going to say that I'm not biased a little bit, but that's what I always see. It's never like one black person there. Like every time he's had a black person there, it's been a group of them. So I thought that's
even better.
That's just me looking through the shit.
That's even better though. If he's going to invite, even if it's a photo op, and he's going to invite whatever black celebrities that he wants, take advantage of the opportunity. You're there. You are in the office. You take advantage of it.
As a community, we tend to discredit those black people that decide to meet with Trump anyway.
Exactly. Exactly.
So here goes T.I. because T.I. is a culture vulture, in my opinion. In some respects, what he does at
Culture
times.
vulture.
He's jumping on these things to show that he's this bombastic voice for the people. First of all, a lot of the stuff that T.I. and his position is not representative of me. So at the end of the day, you have millions of people that follow him that be like, nah, don't sit down with Trump. He's gonna feel inclined to not sit down with Trump. You can't be mad at him for declining because at the same time he's representing himself. This is his facade or his MO, whatever you want to call this, his image.
But by that own thing, Tashi, so let me ask you, in some ways, you know, by calling Kanye crazy and all of that stuff, isn't that kind of what's being done? Like, aren't you kind of diluting any good that can come from him by critiquing him?
Yeah.
And that's what we did. We ran into that old school mode of the old witch hunt. This man just talked about being bullied. He comes out to speak for his people, and then we bully him.
Right.
These motherfuckers
Right.
just sitting back
Right.
laughing at us.
Right.
Like, damn, they actually got somebody that stepped up and spoke for him that didn't have to do that shit. Because a black man is rich can just sit back and just continue to be rich and not give a fuck and not say nothing.
Exactly.
So come out and try, even though we may not have been comfortable with how it came out. I gotta give him props for that. And even furthermore, I've seen a lot of the things that he is trying to develop in black communities in America and in Africa as well too. So he's hitting on both ends with me right now.
But again, just like Andy said, it's just the way you do things. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, that's like speaking Spanish, and none of us speak Spanish. You could be saying a whole lot.
Here's the thing.
We don't see that because it's muddied by the fact that it's not conducive to our comprehension.
So let me ask this question.
He has to be specific.
Yeah, he needs to get better at his. You could be creative all day, but you gotta
let me ask you this.
Speak, period.
Okay.
So we can take it serious.
Let me ask you this. So if Immortal Technique was the rapper that was chosen to meet with Trump, would it have got this type of publicity? Would the whole black community be talking about it? Would the black community care about it?
I think it would. Just for the fact it's Trump,
the same level? At the same level?
Yeah, because he's a black guy. He's a black rapper.
Not to the same level.
The Immortal Technique black.
Immortal Technique is.
So, are you talking about the publicity of it, or the impact it would have on like black people? You're saying having Immortal Technique in there.
What I'm speaking specifically on is for those who know Immortal Technique, I feel like he's the most thorough MC out there when it comes to representing these type of political issues on that stage, on that platform. Okay, if he was to be put on that platform, he doesn't. The thing with him is he doesn't have the popularity, the notoriety that a Kanye has. So I'm saying we need to use that popularity, that notoriety that Kanye has. And I mean, like I say, hey, it ain't gonna come off the best. You know what I'm saying? He's a very misunderstood dude. You know what I'm saying? It can frustrate you at times, but you gotta see through that to hear the messages. Don't let the emotions take you away from the message.
This is what I say about Kanye.
I'm not trying to do no usual suspect shit with fucking Kanye. I'm not trying to figure out who Kanye's associated with this nigga. No, be clear and concise, nigga. That's the thing.
You heard it.
Wait a minute. Here's the thing.
This is how I think people should think about Kanye. I think if you ever,
I'm sorry.
like the way your mind works, like if you have thoughts and you say it as soon as you have them thoughts is how Kanye moves. That's how you gotta think about it. He just says exactly what the fuck is on his mind at that same thing. If we didn't edit our thoughts before we speak, we would be the same way. That's how I think you gotta take in Kanye when you listen to him and when you see him.
Let me go ahead and conclude.
That's not how it would sound if I just talk randomly. He's just.
I'll go ahead and.
Like what?
I'm sorry.
Let me go ahead and I will conclude it with this because the sentiment just seems that if a Kanye West or Kanye West type celebrity is going to speak about black issues, I just think that this should be a translated air or someone who understands from a deeper level than Kanye does, because then you can go ahead and use a celebrity, but just, preserve the integrity of the message you're trying to get across. But folks, we had a great show. First live show, I think we did pretty good. Thanks for all these guests, man. Tashi, Kanye, DB, Andy. And also, folks, we're getting ready to open up another platform. If there's any of these aspiring entrepreneurs, anybody who's involved with a small business or something right now, we want to go ahead and profile you, have a little interview with you. You know, I don't want no celebrities, no $1 million companies. Give me somebody who's, you know, making a few, a little bit of money, just doing their own thing, taking care of their family. Want to hear that story. But folks, thanks for paying attention. Thanks for tuning in. Reality Gurus. Take care.